Hare Krishna. Time to break the silence here. Thank you for coming tonight. Just adjust myself here. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your patience. So, I'll want to just say some invocation mantras before I begin the discussion tonight. So, if you know the prayers, please chant along. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Svidangscha Hey Krishna Kruna Sendo Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna. So I want to thank everybody for assembling to Shishi Radhagiri Dari Dham. I want to thank all the senior devotees here. It's always nice visiting here and visiting the seniors who have been practicing for so long and utilizing their life for the ultimate aim, self-realization. And to all the other devotees doing so much wonderful service here, and to all the guests, and particularly Balaram Prabhu for giving me the opportunity to speak. I don't know where he is, somewhere here, around here. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, I'm coming from Kansas City. We have a temple there, mostly of brahmacharis or monks, and we have a resident sannyasi who lives there, His Holiness Dhanavir Goswami. And one thing that really stands out to me when I come here is the groups of, like, the fullness of a community, where you have practitioners of Krishna consciousness, devotees of Krishna from all ages, from very young, like these two here doing such nice services throughout the week. And so young, such a young age, and then middle-aged, and then, more middle-aged, and then seniors. It really makes Krishna consciousness very vibrant and relevant, because you can see that people of all age groups, all walks of life can take this practice and transform themselves and be so attractive in the sense of effulgent, knowledgeable, and etc. So many wonderful qualities. I think I got abandoned by my tech. Is my tech around here? Okay. We will tech support. Tech support, anybody? Hare Krishna. Well, I wanted to show some imagery of a particular verse that when I heard it for the first time from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the graduate text to the Bhagavad Gita, which you all may know, or some of you may not. It is a wonderful 18,000 verses about the glorifying Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in various ways, in his different aspects of creation and features of himself. And it's very poetic too, very, very beautiful. So, I'll chant the verse because we don't have the text support tonight. Oh, there he is. Yeah, so we're ready. Huh? No sound is okay. Yeah, we can just play it. So, what we will sort of contemplate is an analogy which this verse gives from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is about the sun. How I'll read the translation, and then we can start the video, and I'll read the Sanskrit translation and the purport, and then we'll speak about this verse. So, okay. Translation is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, chapter, I believe this is chapter 3, text number 17. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. So there will be this video which you can just see the movements of the sun and reflect on how that is influencing our lives by decreasing our duration of life in this body. And then thinking how to utilize that time which is being decreased. And we can reflect on what we are actually utilizing that time for currently, and hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam what is the ultimate use for human energy, or our energy, which in the verse it explains, discussing the topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. Yeah, you can just keep it rolling. So it's very, very beautiful, we can see. So I'll chant the verse, and you can meditate on that. I'll chant the verse, the English, Sanskrit English, and then purport, and then we can discuss. Ayor harati vaipumsam udyanashtam chayanaso tasyarte yachano nita utama shloka vartaya. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. This is purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This verse indirectly confirms the greater importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize our lost relationship with the Supreme Lord by acceleration of devotional service. Time and tide wait for no man. That was your cue. So the time, no man or woman, either works. So the time indicated by the sunrise and the sunset will be uselessly wasted if such time is not properly utilized for realizing identification of spiritual values. Even a fraction of the duration of life wasted cannot be compensated by any amount of gold. Yeah, money. Human life is simply awarded to a living entity, jiva, so that he can realize his spiritual identity and his permanent source of happiness. A living being, especially the human being, is seeking happiness because happiness is the natural situation of the living entity. But he is vainly seeking happiness in the material atmosphere. A living being is constitutionally a spiritual spark of the complete whole, and his happiness can be perfectly perceived in spiritual activities. The Lord is the complete spirit whole, and his name, form, quality, pastimes, entourage, and personality are all identical with him. Once a person comes into contact with any one of the above-mentioned energies of the Lord through the proper channel of devotional service, the door to perfection is immediately opened. In the Bhagavad Gita 240, the Lord has explained such contact in the following words: endeavors in devotional service are never baffled, nor is there failure. A slight beginning of such activities is sufficient even to deliver a person from the great ocean of material fears. As a highly potent drug injected intravenously acts at once on the whole body, the transcendental topics of the Lord injected through the ear by the pure devotee of the Lord can act very efficiently. Oral realization of the transcendental messages implies total realization, just as fructification of one part of a tree implies fructification of all other parts. This realization for a moment in the association of pure devotees like Shukadeva Goswami prepares one's complete life for eternity, and thus the sun fails to rob the pure devotee of his duration of life, inasmuch as he is constantly busy in the devotional service of the Lord, purifying his existence. Death is a symptom of the material infection of the living being. Only due to material infection is the eternal living entity subjected to the law of birth, death, old age, and disease. The materialistic way of pious activities like charity is recommended in the Smriti Shastras as quoted by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Money given in charity to a suitable person is guaranteed bank balance in the next life. Such charity is recommended to be given to a Brahmana. If the money is given in charity to a non-Brahmana without Brahminical qualification, the money is returned in the next life in the same proportion. If it is given in charity to a half-educated Brahmana, even the money is returned double. If the money is given in charity to a learned and fully qualified Brahmana, the money is returned 100 and 1,000 times. And if the money is given to a Veda Paraga, one who has factually realized the path of the Vedas, it is returned by unlimited multiplication. The ultimate end of Vedic knowledge is realization of the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. There is a guarantee of monies being returned if given in charity regardless of the proportion. Similarly, a moment passed in the association of a pure devotee by hearing and chanting the transcendental messages of the Lord is a perfect guarantee for eternal life, for returning home back to Godhead. Madham gatva punar janma navidyate. In other words, a devotee of the Lord is guaranteed eternal life. Eternal life. A devotee's old age or disease in the present life is but an impetus to such guaranteed eternal life. Hare Krishna. That was the end of the purport. So, such a nice meditation. And the basic principle here is how to utilize our, as Srila Prabhupada mentions, the bigger, the greater it confirms the greater importance of utilizing the human form of life to realize our eternal nature in connection or in yoga with Krishna. And linking with Krishna. So by yoga practice, then we connect with that Supreme Being, which is the only, more or less the only constant variable in our life. And I remember recently, it's not very often that I can go for a walk on the beach. So when I've been here, I've taken a job of walking and chanting. And I remember we had met somebody who knew about Krishna consciousness, and we were walking with them. Me and Rishi Kumar, my friend, is visiting with me, and I was having this realization just by the gravity of the scene, right? You have this beach and vast ocean, and it makes you feel like, it made me feel like this sense of awe and gravity, actually. And I was realizing that whatever I do, and whatever I've done in this life, and whatever people I've met or had relationships with, or whatever accomplishments I've had or achievements I've gained or lost, all of that, and essentially all of that endeavor was never devoid of Krishna or of the personality of Godhead. Krishna was always there, always present. And then I was having this insight that that's really of course we know from the Shastra, but it was really impacting me that that the essence of my life is to actually connect to Krishna, connect to God, or connect in loving relationship with Krishna. And the Shastra, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, explains that the only way you will actually fully satisfy yourself is if you're always in this devotional service with Krishna. Haikitya pratiyata yatma suprasidati, that this is the supreme dharma, is to be unmotivated and perform uninterrupted service to Krishna. So that means that you're doing it just out of intense love. And this is what the practice of devotional service is getting us to. And so one of the points that's mentioned in here in this purport by Srila Prabhupada is that if we just hear from those that have that, or that are very close to that realization that Krishna is really essentially connecting with Krishna, or loving Krishna, serving Krishna is the essence of my life. And they live that, and they've been living that for many decades. Like, we have some great examples here, even in this community, of devotees that have done that, and throughout their lives, and go on continuing despite old age and all of the tribulations that come with that. And so when we hear from them, then it becomes something very, very real for us, even when we're younger. So, yeah, we can stop it. Thank you. So the sun is going, time is going. Whew. So time is happening. It's Kala, or it's actually an energy of Krishna. And it's like imperceivable, because it's just going by. And for those of us that have spent some years in this world, it's almost inconceivable how it moves us through life. Right? All of a sudden, we may be feeling like time's going by slow, but then all of a sudden, we think about it again, and we're like 10 more years into we're 10 more years in the future, and we're thinking about, wow, how did that go by so quick? And even the weeks can go by quick, or the days, or moments. And it's always helpful to reflect on how I'm utilizing my time. And then it's a matter of, okay, because so many people utilize their time in different ways, right? Like, some people are working on a career and trying to earn money. Like I was just, my hometown is Fresno, which is typically why I visit here, because I'm visiting my hometown, Fresno, California. And so I stopped by here to get some association. And so, what was I saying? Okay, so I was meeting with some friends, and I was sharing some insight into some realizations I was having about time and, existence. And I was told that I overanalyze things too much. Just live in the moment, just don't think too much. And so we kind of brought it back, like, okay, where's the balance though? So then we can think, we can analyze things, and to some degree, and then we can have to some degree, we just act, we just do. And we have to act. We can't just analyze things and not act. So I was thinking about this and reflecting on this point about how some people go their whole lives without really even considering considering the essential questions that arise in the human form, which, if one is utilizing the form properly, which is, why am I suffering? What is the purpose of life? Is there a God? Tato Brahma Jigyasa, which is, the Vedas explain this as the first step of self-realization, is to inquire into the absolute truth. And some people go their whole lives without even considering that. Or it may be considered, but it's too much to bear, the heavy burden, especially when one gets in their older years. Then their life that they knew it can seem like, if one accepts that I just live life more or less wasting the time in the sense of not developing my spiritual life, then it becomes very troublesome to accept it, so they might just avoid such topics. But for wherever Srila Prabhupada explains that wherever you understand the seriousness of the message, from that point, if you take it seriously, then you can make wonderful progress and potentially even perfect your lives, go back to Godhead. So if we've heard the importance of connecting with Krishna through yoga, and all the reasoning behind it, which is because ultimately there's really nothing else to do. It's our eternal occupation, our Sanatana Dharma, which is to eternally serve the Supreme in a loving relationship. So that's the ultimate thing. And then you have some side reasoning, some other reasoning, which is that I'm trying to be happy, which Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport, that I'm trying to be happy in this world, but it's not actually working. And when I was visiting some friends, I was realizing that they had so many goals and so many aspirations, and working very hard in getting their 4.0 bachelor's degree in business, and then having ideas of masters and etc. But in the meantime, their life was just completely bereft of any spiritual endeavor, and thus the persons were having a hard time personally, going through so many ups and downs and not feeling so satisfied. But because the endeavor is so intense for material life, then you can just kind of be distracted and not have to think so much about the reasoning or about what's really going to be the long-term effect of this. Not just like that I'm going to get my career, but what's going to be the long-term effect, like when I'm older, how is this going to affect that when I'm in my elderly age? And then I'm facing the moments when I actually leave this world, when I have to leave this world, because ultimately that's going to come, whether it comes in old age or it might even come now or soon. Hopefully it doesn't come now because we have some practice to do, but it might. We don't know exactly when we have to leave this world, leave this body. So, but generally in old age, that's generally when it happens in our elderly years. So, so Prahlad Maharaj, which is a great saint and Vaishnava in this Vaishnava tradition, explains that even when you're 5 years old, you should give up playing on the playground and playing recess, playing with balls, and endeavor for self-realization. So even when we're young, very, very young, this is a great time a wonderful time to endeavor for Krishna consciousness, to be trained in devotional service. And if you do it when you're young, you skip so many years of a bad conditioning that you could get in this world, especially in today's society. It's a very, very precarious place for somebody spiritually minded, but also just somebody who has a gentle heart and wants to do good in the world. This world is very, very difficult to live in because there's so much exploitation, so many people that are out to get something from you, get your money, or even worse. And it happens every day. So many abominable activities are taking place. So, if one, see, this is my personal realization and experiences is simply by practicing devotional service, by discussing these topics of the personality Godhead, Krishna, by hearing about him, by serving them, serving those that are actually practicing devotional service, you just feel so protected. Like, you feel like you're moving through life, and the realization is that I am, in one sense, I am safe from misusing my human form of life, and I'm safe from death, because by getting the protection of Krishna, then you can actually cross over the ocean of material suffering. And you can become, like the analogy is given, for death for a devotee is like being a kitten in the mouth of your mom cat, versus death for a materialist, or one who doesn't actually get the protection of Krishna by serving him. Then death is like being a mouse or a rat in the mouth of a cat. See the difference there? One you feel completely protected as a kitten. It's like probably the best place you could be at that age is in your mother cat's mouth, versus the rat or the mouse who is extremely fearful of their life. So like this, it's a pretty graphic example, but on the one side it's very nice. So like that, one can be protected from death, because if one is serving Krishna, then they realize that they have that realization, that experience that Krishna is protecting me in this life even, and you're experiencing that through this direct perception. Then, reasonably speaking, they also happen after you have to leave this body, leave this world. So, from wherever you are, in whatever walk of life you are, whatever state of life you are, your circumstances, they can, in any way, Krishna can be added in there to utilize time and energy into his service, and thus be able to free yourself from so many material miseries, so much anxiety, material anxiety. And so much unnecessary endeavor as well that doesn't bring you any sort of happiness or satisfaction. So these are some points of contemplation. Are there any comments or questions or reflections about such topics that have been mentioned? Is there some sort of microphone that would be able to be passed around to somebody? Okay, thank you. So, does anybody have any reflection or comment or
Prabhu, I do. You
Yes,
were
Prabhu.
giving us a very nice realization about how time is hitting us all in different ways. I'd like to share a realization about that myself. I was one of those that was a clock watcher my whole life, right? I always knew what time it was. I was never late, and I always got to where I was going early. And then I realized, after a ridiculous amount of time, that I was being controlled by it. It was a system of control, and this is one of Krishna's energies. And I hadn't heard it said like you just said it, so I wanted to appreciate that and say thank you, because now if I show up late, it's not really late according to when I'm supposed to be there, because that was my old way of being controlled. Whereas now, of course, unless you're a pujari, and you definitely want to serve Krishna on time, that's different, right? But other than that, because I was always in a hurry, I'd always, zip through traffic to try to make it there on time wherever I was going. Mm-hmm. And it's a good way to kind of reflect and just pull back and not be so concerned about arriving on time. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It helped me a lot.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anybody else would like to share something or ask something? Everybody feels like you're utilizing your time nicely? Yes, kind of, sometimes.
I wanted to thank you for your, clarification of what devotion is. Not having a motivation, but for pure love. That was really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very big topic, pure love.
I was just going to share along, since we're on the topic of time, there's another analogy that, in this life, we're carried along by time just as clouds are carried by the wind. Mm. And when you're watching the clouds on a windy day, they're just kind of like traversing the sky. And at one point they're over here, and then at some point they're over here. And you realize the time factor is pushing us along. And once again, just as per your class, the relevance, the importance of utilizing that time so that by the time your cloud or you go beyond the horizon, you're going to a good destination. So I thought it was nice how you're talking about the topic of time and to be aware of it and the value of utilizing time. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a topic that I wanted to speak about so that I could utilize it better. Because it seems like it's one of those things, one of those topics or concepts that you can always improve in. So ultimately, you're in that Haikutya Pratiyatasti where you're just completely absorbed in serving Krishna 24 hours a day.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the class. I was just also reflecting on the fact, as you were speaking about your friends who were studying and who were, debating about where to go, what to study and stuff. Many of us have children or who are studying, who are, we are working, out in the world.
Right.
So can you speak a little bit how, not many of us can dedicate our lives 100% like you are as a brahmachari, right, in the temple. So can you speak a little bit about how we as outsiders can utilize our time in Krishna consciousness?
Yeah. I think you would know better than me. Yeah, I know, because I've seen you do so much nicer. Actually, it's for brahmacharis, those that live in the temple. It's always so refreshing when you see devotees that are living outside, and then they're actually coming and doing service at the temple and having such a nice mood, and so much devotion is being shown through that service. And I know that it's not just like within the temple environment, which devotees perform service, and they're also performing services with raising children, and so it may not be so available to come very often to the temple like one would want or might aspire to, but so it's always refreshing to see devotees to utilize their time, because those in the temple, we might get in this routine like, oh yeah, I'm using every day, it becomes maybe a little bit routine-like, and then you see devotees that are working out hard outside, but then also managing, a business and their kids, and then also finding like little inches and moments of time to serve Krishna at the temple is when we might see devotees in that circumstance. So yeah, because I actually have not lived outside the temple and been balancing kids' work and all that, I don't think I could give like a very detailed, like realized knowledge about it. But did you have something to share?
No,
You seemed like you had something to share about it.
Well, I think you said it when you said you find that time, that little bit of time. And like Srila Prabhupada says, anything you use in the service of Krishna is Krishna consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about consciousness, right? It's all about having that that understanding that anything you do, if you do it for Krishna, depending on him and allowing him to, basically work through you in a sense. You're working
Mm-hmm.
for him, whether you're taking care of your children or you're sweeping the temple or you're sweeping your kitchen, right? Whether you're sweeping your kitchen or the kitchen at the temple, if you have that mentality that it's Krishna's and you're doing it for him, I think that is what devotional service is. And I think all of us can have that consciousness in whatever we're doing. So, thank you.
Yeah, Krishna consciousness is, it's so practical. And that was one of the things that really convinced me about it, is at every moment you can learn how to perform devotional service in any sort of circumstance. Of course, the easiest way to perform devotional service in any circumstance is to chant Hare Krishna, because mostly all the time, unless we have some physical limitation with our voice or whatever, we can't say out loud or whatever, but chanting Hare Krishna you can do anytime, anywhere. And that was the one aspect of this practice of meditation which I realized was so powerful, because I could be washing dishes and chanting Hare Krishna. I can be walking to class at my college, chanting Hare Krishna. I could be doing anything really, chanting Hare Krishna and meditating. So I like to tell people that when I meet them, they're practicing meditation. But yeah, the principle is that we can be conscious of Krishna and perform our duties. Now, one might have an idea like, oh, I'm doing this for Krishna, but it may not actually be the case. So then one has to receive training and guidance from their spiritual master. And the devotees, of course, Krishna is also in the heart, but seeking that guidance on how we perform devotional service to Krishna, how we can actually connect our work or our raising of children, etc., to Krishna is shown by our seniors and our spiritual master. They can light that path on how to do it, so that we're actually we are doing it and not just in the name of Krishna doing something.
I was going to mention one other thing, Prabhu. Yeah, perfect what you're saying. Every day find some time to chant Hare Krishna, chant japa, or chant Krishna's names. And then another thing that, Lord Chaitanya said this, and I've heard it, in Srila Prabhupada's talks, that you can hear. I mean, there's so much audio visual, or reading Srila Prabhupada's books, making time each day to do that. Like every morning as I'm getting ready and doing a small, deity seva and like that, I'll listen to a Srimad Bhagavatam class, Or you can hook into the temple online and listen, as you're doing your different responsibilities and getting set up. So, like you said, chanting Hare Krishna and then making time to hear or to read Prabhupada's books is certainly extremely helpful in supporting one's Krishna consciousness, living in the world. So.
Yeah, that conviction that conviction of utilizing our time properly can be strengthened by a few factors. Like, for me, what has been so powerful for me is to be around people that do utilize every moment or try to utilize every moment in Krishna consciousness and devotional service. When I first came to the temple and was practicing devotional service, I had a Sankirtan leader who imbibed this mood, and this is a quality of a devotee, of a pure devotee of Krishna, is that they are very conscious of how they utilize their time so that they can be always serving Krishna. So this devotee was like, like the most practical person personified, that utilizing time for devotional service that I ever came across, just in any kind of, not just like what to speak of devotional service, but just like any field of endeavor. This person was like so minutely fixed on utilizing everything for their service to Krishna, and it really instilled in me this drive, like, okay, this is, and it wasn't like the person was very very hard-hearted about it or very standoffish or proud of it, but actually the opposite. Was the person was just ultimately humble and saintly, and I was drawn back. I was like, whoa, this is otherworldly. It's amazing. So by that example and association, as we say, then those qualities kind of rubbed off on me, and I was able to try to implement that in how I live too. So that factor is there, being around people that utilize their time very minutely in devotional service, so that they're always utilizing their intelligence. And that's a big factor, is to be checking our activities with our intelligence, which we're given from the Shastra or from Guru, from the sadhus. So we see that when we're doing some activity, we can see, okay, how is this related to Krishna, or is this a proper use of my time, etc. And then we can make a decision from that point. Okay, do I keep doing it, or maybe out of habit I just, okay, let me just go on with what I'm doing. So my point was, from hearing about it, like reading, like Prabhu was mentioning, we can hear the Bhagavatam, or we can read the books of Srila Prabhupada or Krishna conscious literatures, and then naturally we get to develop that sense that I should be utilizing my time for devotional service. It becomes something very, very real and fortified when we continuously hear about the importance of it, because you're not going to hear it out there in material society. Material society is going to say, utilize your time for making money, for intoxicating, for so many things, buying this, buying that. Utilize your time and energy for that, or come to this, entertainment place. And there's so many advertisements for all these endeavors, and it might be satisfying in the moment, but then leaves you with some anxiety, or even just wanting more from the experience. But anything material can actually give you that satisfaction, which the soul is really hankering for. Sorry, was there something over here? Yes, Prabhu?
I heard few weeks ago, I was listening to some lecture or talk. I believe it was a sannyasi, I don't remember his name. But he was saying, like, a really good test of your consciousness is measured when you have free time. What do you choose to do? And all your business is done, all your duties are done. There's some gap of time, or it's the end of the day. What are you going to choose to do? You going to go to the television? Are you going to go to Bhagavad Gita? You're going to go listen to some tutorial about Krishna or some place of pilgrimage in India or somewhere else. So that's a good kind of gauge of where we're at. It's like, I'm going to go home tonight. I have a little bit of business, but I'm thinking I'm going to read Krishna book before I go to bed. Maybe I'll have a dream of Krishna, you know. So, you know, what are we going to do in our free time after? Are we going to do something in pursuit of trying to enjoy the body and the senses? Look at World Cup reruns, or something transcendentally wonderful? So I was just hearing that, and then I was thinking about your class about how to manage time, how to utilize time in the best way, propel ourselves towards higher planets, not to infamy.
All right, thank you for the wonderful, wonderful realization. Is there anything else? Yes, Govardhan Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. I remember when I was reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, it was saying that a human being can live for 100 years, but we have preoccupations. When we're young, we spend 10 years playing, and then when we're young adults, we spend 10 years in romance, and then when we're an adult, we use 10 years working, and then when we're in old age, we spend 10 years worrying. So and 50 years of our life is spent sleeping. So we actually only have 10 years to practice devotional service. And I remember when I was reading that, it really put me in check, you know. Am I serious about devotional service? And I remember when I was at the Balboa Park where I distribute books, one of the questions that I ask is, what's the saddest tragic scenes that you'll find here? And people will say, oh, you know, this and that. And then I tell them the saddest tragic scenes that you'll find are old people. They can barely walk, they can barely stand, but they're still out here in the park trying to look for enjoyment. So I tell them they don't know how to utilize their time properly. So thank you for your class. It really hit a nice spot.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. You always have such insightful stories that you tell, different things you tell people. It's always really inspiring. Is there anybody else would like to share something? So I appreciate everybody sharing. It's a wake up call for me too, because there's always improvements to be made. And yeah, any walk of life and any circumstance, one can utilize their time in devotional service, because Krishna is always there, always present, and one can connect by chanting or praying to Krishna, thinking about Krishna, performing service. So that realization and motivation, you could say, to connect with Krishna is something that comes as one gets purified in the process of devotional service. Then one becomes more interested in Krishna consciousness and being Krishna conscious, wanting to please Krishna. So ultimately, we want to utilize our time for its ultimate purpose in this human form of life. Ultimately, we want to just serve Krishna. That's the pure desires. We want to serve Krishna purely and out of unconditional love. and the devotees in the highest platform, they're intensely utilizing every moment or fraction of a moment in complete absorption in love to serve Krishna. And we hear this with the pastimes of the gopis of Vrindavan, how they criticize Lord Brahma for creating eyelids which blink so that some little moment they don't see Krishna. So they criticize Lord Brahma that, what kind of creator is this? So that is out of pure loving devotion. So it's a road to get there. So that's the wonderful thing is Srila Prabhupada's making the point that he quoted from Bhagavad Gita, which whatever progress you make, that's the thing about material progress, is that it ends with this life. You don't like, they have all these they have like these trust funds, when some family is, or forefathers or whatever, father, grandfather, they're wealthy, then they created some trust fund that their money gets passed down for generations and generations. So that means that they didn't actually get to take what they, achieved in this world, but they leave it for their family members. And then sometimes they leave a trust fund for their family members, and then, one person blows it on something very trivial. So I'm not saying don't create trust funds. I'm just saying like there's the trivialness to it in the grand scheme of things, that whatever achievements we accumulate here, we don't take with us. And that's the thing about material progress, is that it's just simply temporary. Whereas Nihabhikrama nashasti pratyavayo navidyate Salpamapasya dharmasya trayate mataho bayat. That Krishna says, any little endeavor, any moment of time which you serve me or you endeavor for my devotional service, that is always with you eternally. And the analogy is like the spiritual bank account, whatever money you put in that bank account, you always have it throughout eternity. So whatever time you put into chanting Hare Krishna or performing devotional service, and let's say that even in this life we didn't really get to utilize our time properly, when we're in old age we realize, oh man, I could have been better in this way and that way, could have served Krishna better, could have served Krishna more directly. Whatever progress you made, actually, it's there eternally, and so that's the bright side. So devotional service is always bright. However much, it's always a win-win in devotional service. Whatever progress you make, there's a win-win. You're making progress, and next life you'll be in a better situation. Generally, you'll be in a better situation so that you can serve Krishna better. You can have better facilities for service to Krishna. But of course, we want to try our best. Try our best in this life. But if we're very conditioned to try to enjoy the material world, that may be very difficult. But because everybody's here, chanting, hearing about Krishna, great progress is being made. So whatever amount of progress you're making tonight, that's with you forever. So it's the best way to utilize time and energy. Yes? Okay. We stop at 7 for an arti or something? Okay.
Hare Krishna. I have a question. Like, I always wanted to know this. So, I wanted to know, what is the role of Radha in Krishna's life? Because they don't talk about her too much, or like Lakshmi or Kalima, or what as a woman I want to know the role of what is the consort's part in the Krishna's life, Vishnu's life, like what do they play, like as a yin and yang. I know it's like yin and yang, like you need to balance the divine feminine and the divine masculine, like they're twin flames. So, But what I want to know from you, what it.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. It's a very, very deep topic. So I can just share some overview points, and then maybe you can approach somebody, another devotee, and during the program, and discuss more further. So here we have Radha Giridhari. So eternally. So the absolute truth, and this is a very wonderful realization, which I don't have much qualification to speak on, but essentially they're one, and Srimati Radharani is the personification of Krishna's internal potency, or his bliss Shakti. And so she is the best of devotees, actually. And Balaram was given a class yesterday, I believe, and he was speaking about the glories of Srimati Radharani and Radhastami, which is celebrating the appearance of Srimati Radharani in this world. But anyway, so she's the best of the devotees, so we only get Krishna's mercy or Krishna's blessings by Radharani's blessings. So that is some things about Srimati Radharani. In one sense, she's concealed. There's only an indirect mention of her in the Srimad Bhagavatam because Shukadeva Goswami didn't feel so qualified to speak about her because of she's such an exalted personality. But here we're worshiping Srimati Radharani and Krishna every day, and we can see that she's the best of devotees. She gives Krishna the most pleasure. So if we serve her, then we can certainly please Krishna. So that are some things about Srimati Radharani. So now we're out of time for this class or discussion. I thank you all for hearing and being here, and please bless me that send some well wishes towards me that I could utilize my time properly in this existence, this life, and certainly I'm thinking the same for you all too. So thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.